Warning, the following show doesn't represent the opinion of CIBL,
UFV,
its employees, or the local clown college.
Oh, and the theme song is pretty explicit.
Enjoy the show.
All right, hi, I'm James Randian. I took left at the Valley.
I know we shouldn't have to scream that we're atheists. You know, we don't have non-astrologers and all that. But with the religious people taking over the world, I mean, we can either speak up or be pushed into a corner.
I'm proud to be an atheist, a skeptic, a non-believer, an infidel, a heathen. I call it how I see it. I say it's ignorance and you just call it faith and unsubstantiated claims. That's something to be ashamed. I'm an atheist. I'm an atheist.
From the Abbey Road studios of CIVL 101.7 FM at UFV in Abbotsford, this is Left of the Valley. My name is Kevin, and although I can't buy me love, I am your host. Joining me as usual is the rest of the Fab 4 team that will twist and shout their way into Come Together for Atheism. Our Hard Day's Night of History, Nancy. Hi. Or I Never Saw Her Standing There of Skepticism, Tyler.
Hey, that was a blind joke.
Our Ticket to Ride behind the board, Martina.
Here we go again.
Guys, welcome back. Yeah, guys, I hope you had a, while my guitar sings, or my guitar gently weeps, let's chit-chat a bit. So, you guys hear about the death of Muhammad Ali?
Yeah, I did. It's all over Facebook.
Yeah, the grade one of boxing has passed at 74, and he certainly has quite a legacy to fill, big shoes to fill. Hey guys, welcome to the studio. Headphones are right there, and the microphone's right in front of you. And oh, by the way, you remember how we're looking at the TWU, the Trinity Western University report, because they're trying to get a law school. Well, our friend Ian Bushfield basically sent us a report, and let me read a few of the highlights. This is from Ian Bushfield, because right now the Law Society and it's gone to court, right? So this case centered on whether the Law Society of BC has the authority to refuse or approve a proposed law school at Trinity Western University. We've talked about this on the show before. TWU is an evangelical private school which requires all of its students to sign a community covenant. That document requires students to abstain, both on and off campus, from sexual relations outside of heterosexual marriage. This provision officially bars LGBTQ students from accessing these potential law seats. The covenant also requires students to uphold the sanctity of life, which discriminates against women's reproductive freedom. The Law Society has initially approved the law school, but it reversed that decision following a referendum of its members, who are practicing lawyers across the province. TWU challenged that rejection of the BC Supreme Court and won on administrative grounds in December. Essentially, the court ruled the Law Society messed up how it made the decision, but the ruling didn't really go into human rights issues at play. Meanwhile, the Law Societies of Ontario and Nova Scotia also rejected the law school. The Law Society appealed the BC Supreme Court decision, and those hearing began this week. So our friend Ian Bushfield was there. Their lawyer, which is Tim Dixon, was the first to intervene to speak. He presented the arguments over the limits of religious freedom should be drawn. Basically, the argument came down to 2 points. Basically, the Law Society or any law school with a mandatory religious code said to have that is open to students of all faith, and none. It is not just a community of evangelical Christians, or Muslim, Jews, etc., etc. By having mandatory code of conduct, the school in effect coercing these students into living the Christian standard that violates their students' rights to freedom in essence, and no one's belief can compel another student's. The Christian Legal Fellowship was concerned with the rights of Christian students who wanted to go to TWU, and that rejecting the school would lead to Law Society rejecting any Christian applicants. So in other words, they're fighting back. You guys have any thought on what's going on with the Trinity Western University?
Yeah, my wife grew up directly across the street from there, and they had students living with them, and they all basically went to that school, and a whole bunch of her friends have gone to the Trinity School as well. And she went to White Rock Christian, I think it's called, and a lot of her friends did. They went from White Rock Christian and they went to Trinity, basically. Mm-hmm. And they, even in like elementary school, they had to write a thing, saying, I believe this about Christianity, just to go to like an elementary school. and they had them out, holding up anti-abortion picketing and stuff like that, even though they had no idea what abortion was, and they just drill it into you. Like, they're already at that mentality before they go to Trinity, so it's just kind of an extension of that.
Yeah, it's becoming quite common, right? You hear a lot of stories in the States, for example, what's his name? Ken Ham building the Ark down in Kentucky. He makes you sign, if you're going to go work for the guy, he makes you sign a waiver saying that you have to profess that you believe in the Christian God and Jesus and all that.
Yeah, same
That's
with
horrendous.
Answers in Genesis, Institution for Creation Research, the website, creation.com. If you actually look at their faith statements, it's you have to believe this, and if any evidence contradicts this belief, it must be false.
Yeah,
and it
exactly.
straight up says that.
It basically says the Bible contradicts no matter what the sign says.
Yeah.
Which is okay, because it's a religious school, and people who have that faith can go to that school, and they're entitled to do what they want. I think the main point is that when their policies butt up against secular rules, regulation, policies, I'm fighting for the right word, then either they have to go along with non-discrimination and the secular society, or they have to change. Do you think they're going to win?
No, I don't think so.
No, I don't think so. I don't. But
I hope they don't.
They are 100% entitled to believe anything they want to believe. But when they want to have a law school that's influenced by religion, that is contrary to what the rest of the society believes, then I don't think they're entitled to have the law school.
Well, and you said that didn't work in Ontario, right?
They got turned down.
Yeah. Ontario.
I wanted to make
and
sure I heard.
Nova Scotia. Didn't they get turned down?
Nova Scotia. The problem with that is they're arguing that it's already being done in the States as well, and we know the results of that. You look at Brigham Young University, you look at Liberty University. These for lack of a better term, papier-mâché schools, because they're really not worth
What do they call them, mill schools or something?
Yeah, they're really not worth, you get a degree from some of these schools, you kind of laughed out of the profession almost, right?
Just imagine if we had the opposite, like if we started a school and said you have to be pro-LGBT and you have to be pro-choice or you can't go to the school, they would lose their minds.
I think you get a very good point there.
Yeah.
But anyway, moving on.
No, wait, you got to go back to the Muhammad Ali thing.
Oh, I will, and I will bring that later on the show,
Okay.
because today we're doing a show on cycling with diversity and racism, and we have a returning guest, our good friend Ken Herar. Hey, Ken.
How are you, Kevin?
I'm good. Let's give this guy an applause. Right? All right. He's back in studio. Yeah. Exactly.
We're too lazy to clap ourselves, so we have a button.
And you brought a friend as well with you.
Yeah, Anne-Marie, and she's our executive coordinator.
Excellent.
Or director, or what do you call yourself?
Well, welcome to Left of the Valley, guys. And you guys are sticking with us for the show, so that's going to be great. Feel free to interject whenever segments we have. But Nancy, are you just about ready to go?
I am just about.
Let's set you up.
And we're ready for this day in history, which is a roundup of those events and individuals that altered and illuminated the days between May 30th and June 5th. May 31st was World No Tobacco Day, so hopefully anybody who is smoking made a good decision to stop.
Speak closer to your mic, dear.
Oh, okay, here we go. All right, in 1997, is that better?
Yeah, that's
Am I
a bit
good?
better.
Okay. May 31st, in 1997, the Confederation Bridge opened, linking Prince Edward Island with the mainland of New Brunswick. And have anybody been across that bridge? It's
No, but I believe
awesome
it's one of the
looking,
longest
isn't it?
bridges in the world.
Yeah, it's awesome. June 1st was Victory Day in Tunisia, and in 1869, the voting machine was patented by none other than Thomas Edison, who I think invented just about everything except water, didn't he? From everything you look in terms of the patents, he was there for almost.
We could certainly have some arguments with that.
Yeah. In 1908, on June 1st, a guy named John Crone began a walk around the perimeter of the U.S., and it took 357 days. So John Albert Crone had the idea of how to make money on this trip, and he'd push a wheelbarrow, and keep his belongings in it, and he'd write about all his adventures and keep all his journals in the wheelbarrow. So
Wait a minute, he's having adventures with a wheelbarrow?
with a wheelbarrow. I know, he walked.
And I thought my life was dull.
Yeah. So he started off and ended from Portland, Maine, and it took him 9,024 miles, wore out 11 pair of shoes, 121 pair of socks, and 3 rubber tires. He kept that wheelbarrow in good condition. In 1927, the Peace Bridge between U.S. and Canada opened, and that connects Buffalo to Fort Erie, Ontario. Anybody been across that bridge?
No.
No, man, oh man, we're bridge.
We're not bridge people.
Impoverished here.
I don't go east.
Bridge pride.
I don't go east. It's too cold.
Oh, okay.
I could be considered a bridge troll, but that's about
Yeah.
it.
Okay. June the 2nd is Isabel Province Day in the Solomon Islands. And Kevin, guys, you remember a couple of shows back, I gave you the choice of a political story or a golf story?
Yes.
And everybody chose the political story?
Yeah.
And so I said, partly sarcastically and partly in humor, you should have chosen the golf story.
You just wanted to tell the golf story, didn't you? Just admit it.
Well, on June 2nd, there was a part of the golf story that took place. Actually, it's the main part. So I get to tell the golf story.
Okay.
Today. I don't
Let's
even
go
have
with
to
the golf
ask you,
story.
we're going with the golf story. Okay, back in 1901, there were laws in place that prohibited playing sports on Sundays. A lot of places, prohibited shopping on Sundays, but anything that was any fun was generally prohibited by the Methodists on Sunday. So included
Surprise.
on this was golf. And so in May, in Yonkers, New York, at Schuylkill Golf Course, a group of people were arrested, and one of them was a gentleman whose name was Benjamin Adams. So he was arrested, and his trial came up on June the 2nd for flagrantly ignoring the laws of no sports, no golf on Sunday. So the trial was just absolutely, you'd think it would be a dull trial, bang, bang, you're guilty, but it wasn't.
Hold on a
So-
sec. You're saying this guy was arrested and put to trial because he was having fun on Sunday.
He was. And
He wasn't from Vancouver, obviously.
No. No, he wasn't. He was just across the country and one country south in Yonkers, New York, USA. So the day of the trial comes, and so one of the things, of course, and it was a jury trial. So one of the guys who was arrested with him, but they were let go, was a member of that golf club, and so he was summoned for duty, and he walks in to the court with his golfing attire, knickers, the golf shoes, the hat, the sweater, the whole thing, and he gets into court winking at Benjamin Adams' attorney. So initially, the presiding judge was not amused. So he said, "Out." So this poor guy goes out, and he's not a member of the jury. So it turns out that this judge was the same judicial official who had ruled earlier on the enforcement of the ban on golf, as well as baseball. So he dismissed the juror, and things from the get-go were not going well. So the attorney for Adams was just furious and raised a whole host of objections, but the judge gavelled it all down, but the fireworks didn't end. So the attorney contended that the game of golf was peaceful and therefore did not fall into the category of activities of disturbing the peace. And that was the real intent of the legislation. So the attorney made a motion for dismissal. That's denied. Then he argued that because the game was played on privately held clubland, there was no danger of interfering with the public's right to enjoy a peaceful Sabbath. And they had the club president testify that the grounds were private, but the judge doesn't care. Bang, bang, rejected another plea for dismissal. So before the judge charged the jury, they finally got through most of this, and the judge began to charge the jury, and he left out the part that had to do with on public property. He read the whole thing, but just for some reason skipped over the part that this is applicable. So now the attorney raises, another objection, and the judge says, "Oh, I'm so sorry." And so they
Wink, wink, then judge.
yeah. So finally, they went to the jury. The jury was out like 45 minutes, and that was it. He was innocent. The interesting thing about this is that was the first case that established the fact that religion and enjoyment on Sunday were not, did not go hand in hand.
Mm-hmm.
So that started the ability for sports to be played on Sunday. Now the fun part of this story to me is that Benjamin Adams was an attorney, and he was also on the school board. So there's some question in my mind that this was kind of set up, to be able to challenge, in a legal manner. So there's the golf story. Not as exciting as some of the baseball stories, but still, it's a kind of a cute story. Okay, June the 4th was Tiananmen Square protest of 1989, and then in 2014 there was a publication of a paperback that I think is particularly interesting given today's politics, and the paperback was called "Atheists Can't Be Republicans. If Facts and Evidence Matter."
That's controversial.
I wish, but I know a few.
Yeah, 2 years ago, and it's coming up to be pretty relevant today. The person that wrote it is a person named C.J. Werleman. And Werleman is not an American, he's an Australian, but he's an atheist, author, columnist, and U.S. political and social commentator. He's a critic of both the Christian right and the New Atheists and the influence of corporate politics and social inequality. So he contends that atheists who are into modern U.S. conservative ideology are hanging on to ideas that have either been proven mythical at worst or remain unproven at best. And if atheists applied the same litmus test to their political ideology as they do to theology, then clearly an atheist cannot be a Republican. What do you think?
That should say skeptic. There's tons of atheists out there who are not skeptics, and it's using that word as in place of the word skeptic. I know lots of atheists who believe stupid things. I was talking to one the other day who believes in ghosts.
Why are you looking at me when you said that?
Exactly. Anyway, I think if anybody is interested, if they can get that book and read it before they even think about voting for Trump, if they're in the U.S.
It should say skeptics can't be Republicans.
Although the president of American Atheists, David Silverman, he's a conservative.
Yeah, I mean, conservative, I guess, I don't know. The Conservative Party has been hijacked, so what you call conservative today was not the same conservative in the 1950s per se.
Mm-hmm.
At any rate, that, dear listeners, brings to a close another passing parade of interesting, mundane, unusual, and occasionally bizarre events and people that make up this day in history.
Thank you, Nancy.
You're
that was another brilliant this day in history.
Michael Sherman's a libertarian. When I found that out, that completely blew my mind.
And yet you still have a functioning mind. It wasn't completely blown, was it? And we'll be right back right after this.
You are listening to CIVL 101.7 FM at the University of the Fraser Valley's Abbotsford campus, serving the surrounding communities of Abbotsford, Mission, and Chilliwack, British Columbia. Email us at info@civl.ca. Follow us on Facebook. Click like on CIVL Radio. Follow CIVL on Twitter at CIVL_radio.
Are you ready to make it stop? Canada has the highest rates of Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis in the world, and the diseases are on the rise in kids under 10. Join Crohn's and Colitis Canada on Sunday, June 5th for the Gutsy Walk at over 60 community walks across Canada. It's time to stop the pain, stop the surgeries, stop the missed moments. Sunday, June 5th, show you've got the guts to make it stop. Register today at gutsywalk.ca.
Do you miss the classic Johnny K?
Hi there, Johnny K here, reminding you that the Vinyl Spinner lives on Wednesday nights from 6 to 10 here on CIVL 101.7 frequency modulation.
Hi there, Nurse Katie here, reminding you that the Vinyl Spinner lives on Wednesday nights from 6 to 10 here on Civil Radio.
Hi there, Willie Knotts here, reminding you that the Vinyl Spinner lives on Wednesday nights from 6 to 10 here on Civil Radio. Yay!
anti-Semitism was preached as an official doctrine of the church until 1964, do you think that might have something to do with public opinion in Austria and Bavaria and Poland and Lithuania? That the Jewish people were accused collectively as a people of deicide, of the crime of the murder of God in the figure of Jesus of Nazareth. And that anathema on them was not lifted until 64, well after the perpetrators of the Holocaust had stood trial in secular courts and been rightly punished for their actions. How can this church say it has any moral superiority? It has difficulty catching up to what ordinary people regard as common moral and ethical sense, and it still can't make itself apologize properly.
And we're back. We're here today with Ken Herar and his friend. I'm sorry, your name again, dear? I'm so bad with names.
Anne-Marie Shadeen.
Anne-Marie, thank you. Excellent. Thank you so much, guys, for being here with us today. Well, we're going to go into our usual funny segment about religious news. Another brilliant moment brought to you by religion. Perfect. Another brilliant moment. Did you know, apparently, an Indonesian village mistook a sex doll for an angel from heaven?
Yeah, I saw that. I was laughing so hard.
Easy to do.
Apparently, some villagers in Indonesia were disappointed to learn that an angel from heaven was actually a fancy sex toy. There's a report that a life-size inflatable sex doll was found by a 21-year-old fisherman on a beach in Banggai, I hope I said that right after a solar eclipse that had engulfed the region. Many Muslims in the country believe that the solar eclipse had spiritual significance, so when the young fisherman discovered the sex doll on the beach, he believed it was an angel that had descended from heaven. So the fisherman brought the angel home, where it was cared for by his parents. According to reports, the parents of the fisherman changed the angel's clothes every day, and the angel was given a special hijab. Villagers believe the sex doll, you're having a hard time containing yourself here, was a bidadari, a type of angel or spirit. In addition, unverified stories about how the angel was found, stranded and crying, spread throughout the village. As news spread about the angel and local villagers buzzed about the supernatural occurrence, the talk caught the attention of the area police, who went to visit the so-called angel. Only then did everyone discover it was an inflatable doll. Any thoughts on that? The room fell quiet.
It's hard. Words fail me for a minute.
Yeah, well, I find what's interesting about this article is how the myth of it spread so quickly. This is obviously not a normal person.
Well, yeah, but sort of parallel to this, it's like seeing the face of the Madonna on toast. It depends on your orientation and what your previous belief system is, and the fact, in a way, it's really kind of precious that that was a benign thought. That it was an angel, that it was a good spirit, that it was something that would be helpful to them, rather than seeing what it actually is. It's kind of a naive, nice mistake.
But fine. But what I find interesting about this is you have obviously a lifeless object. Okay, you think it's an angel, fine, but all of a sudden, rumors, like I said in the article, rumors of the angel was found stranded and crying. The angel, the inanimate object, quote-unquote angel, is already doing actions which we know are literally impossible, but the mythology spread so quickly.
Well, and the interesting thing about that is that what you'll hear from like Christian apologists and whatnot is that with the Jesus thing, myths couldn't have arisen that quickly.
Exactly.
We have plenty of other examples like Saint Genevieve and whatnot. But
this is like report this day and age just happened last month. So imagine if this report would have come out, these myths would have been kept on going for a couple decades, a couple generations. What would that angel have been doing all this time?
And the argument is that St. Paul was writing roughly 20 years after Jesus quote-unquote died, right?
Yeah.
And they say, 20 years wasn't long enough. 20 years, 20 days, 20 hours is long enough.
We had a month. We had a month here, and all of a sudden this doll is already crying and doing stuff. So it just shows that, human imagination goes a long way. But anyway, thank you so much for your thoughts on that.
No critical thinking classes in the Indonesian schools, eh?
Apparently. Ken, welcome back.
Yeah, thank you, Kev.
You were actually on our show, like one of the first shows we did, and you were a fantastic guest.
Is that right?
We're glad to have you back.
Thank you.
Now, I tried really hard to find my Cycling for Diversity shirt, but I think I lost it in a move when I moved from Mission to Abbotsford, so I'm really, really sorry. Yeah. So, for, I guess, maybe people that didn't listen to the last show, would you be so kind to give us, like, the Reader's Digest version of you guys and how you came to be? Well, I don't want the conception mythology here. I just want
Well, my mommy and my daddy.
No, we don't go that far.
Yeah. Cycling for Diversity started in 2011. A small group of us cycled throughout the Lower Mainland, talking to kids about racism, diversity, and ways we can be more inclusive in our schools, in our communities. So we finished the first ride in 2011 and had a great response, and I was encouraged to continue on, and we gathered a team, and we've been doing. We just completed our 6th year, done well over 100 schools, made a lot of new friends.
And originally, you're a reporter. You're a freelance journalist.
Yes. Yeah. So we.
And I know your column talks about multiculturalism a lot.
Right. Yeah. So the general focus is about trying to celebrate our diversity, but are we struggling with our diversity? In ways we can be more inclusive, or we're just talking about it, and so we try to spark a little bit of a conversation so people know like diversity is a kind of an interesting word, right? People just kind of say, well, yeah, I believe in it, but they don't really practice it in their lives. Like, you don't see it, right? So
I totally agree. And this is why I also wanted to bring the unfortunate passing of Muhammad Ali. I know he's a sports legend. Everybody talks about, float like a butterfly, sting like a bee, right? Yeah. But I think his bigger contribution to history will be how he fought for multiculturalism.
Yeah.
I heard he was quite racist, actually. I saw that this morning, so I was going to ask you guys about it on the way out the door. So.
Well, I wouldn't say he was racist. He stood up for what he believed in, right? You know what I mean? There's just, he stood up for what he believed in, and
no, I don't think he was racist either. Although I think he was exposing. He was one of the first ones to expose publicly, I think, to the States, the systematic racism that occurs in the States, especially towards the black community.
Well, Muslim community, right?
Well, not just Muslim or black.
Yeah. So
I mean, he was there at the time of. He fought against the draft for Vietnam, and there are plenty of reporting of him talking about. There's this one clip I was watching where he's talking about, if there's 1,000 rattlesnakes and they're coming at me, should I not close the door, or should I just leave the door open in the hopes that the 100 good rattlesnakes will take care of the rest?
Yeah.
He was very controversial, but I think he put focus on that, and I think hopefully that'll be his bigger legacy than what we see him as a boxer.
Absolutely, yeah. There's a big write-up in the province today too, in the front page. So I encourage people to read it. Yeah.
The province. That's some kind of newspaper.
Yeah, still hanging on, right?
It's still hanging on. Yeah. Okay. Cool. So, I guess Cycling for Diversity, you guys started in 2011. You did the first bike ride, and it's kind of progressing over time.
Sure.
And you guys are doing it again this year.
Yeah, we just completed it a couple weeks ago, or 2 weeks ago.
Oh, you completed it?
Yes.
Jeez, I missed it.
So the province declares Cycling for Diversity Week.
Oh, nice.
From May 22nd to May 28th last month. Oh. And we did our ride. We did the 3-day ride. Visited about a dozen schools.
That's a note for this day in history.
Yeah. It's just not the bike ride. It's about the message, Kevin. How we talk to kids about diversity. This year we went to some of the rural communities and got to hear some of the stories there. And the kids say, yeah, racism still exists in their eyes. So it's interesting to see what they have to say to make our communities better. Because as being a columnist and being a South Asian, I hear it and I can feel it. It's still out there in our communities. But racism is not just a one-way street. It has many different fragmentations. It comes at you at all different angles, right? From and it's not just one group of people against another. It's everybody has it.
Yeah.
We all have tendencies to have biases or racism thoughts towards things.
Yeah, I think it's tribalism is what we would define it as.
So what changes have you seen from 2011 that either bad or good, or that you're proud of, that you helped to start? What kind of changes can you let us know about?
Well, some of the changes that come to mind are we get kids thinking about it, and some of these kids are pretty young, right? So like, and a lot of these kids have experienced racism at school. They stand up and share their story. It's not about we want to listen to them too, right? So they want to, and then they can expose it to the whole school. Like, how can we make it better? So some of them say, "Oh, we've been bullied in the parking lot, or by by other students and stuff like that." So,
have you seen any changes in the curriculum or in policies or procedures from the teachers or from staff? Have you recommended any changes that you see they carry through? Okay.
No, I haven't seen any changes,
Yeah.
but they've been very open after hosting us to come to their school,
Which is great.
Which is a
that's
great
a big
start.
step.
Which is essentially what you do at Cycling for Diversity.
Yeah.
You're not just going out for a bike ride there. You're actually going to schools and you actually talk to the kids.
We try to have a conversation about what, and then I tell them about my experiences, and they kind of shocked. Like South Asians weren't allowed to go to a Christmas party. You remember that, right? That's kind of how it started but over the years, I was hearing more and more of people emailing me, my column in the newspaper, and saying, what, racism is out there, and a lot of them are concerned about that South Asians don't want to mix with the general population.
Yes.
So as being South Asian myself, I do see it, and that was a concern that I had to address too, because the community has grown, a lot over the decades.
I was often told by people of Caucasian descent, obviously, that South Asians and Asians in general seem xenophobic. I don't know. It's probably a pitiful attempt to put the blame on them, but is that something you hear often yourself?
Yeah. So I think generally, the South Asian community can be very giving. They're very involved in the community, but we have, I'm not trying to pick on one community, but
of course not.
A lot of them are.
You can pick on me though.
Yeah, a lot of them are new immigrants as well. Like they come and so it's diversity is a new concept, right? It's just like trying to make new friends and all that stuff is not easy, but work remains, and we need the community response has been great. And their support, wherever we go, people say, you know what, we believe in Cycling for Diversity and the message, and we have an incredible team. And Anne here has done an amazing job in trying to building this organization and the team and the message, but also staying with new ideas as well, because the message is always changing. There's always new things you encounter and stuff like that. So.
I'm 100% blind, so when you say South Asian, what does that mean exactly?
Generally people from Indian origin.
Like for you, where are you from?
Well, my parents are from India,
okay.
Punjab, but I'm born here. Yeah, we're born and raised here. So
yeah, he's talking. Indian, Sri Lankan.
Yeah, that whole region, right?
Yeah,
Tamil.
it's loosely defined, really. What's South Asian and Asian? What exactly?
I was thinking Vietnamese or something, right?
No, I think those would probably be more under the Asian. I think
racism is probably a lot different from my perspective because you don't have an accent, right? So
no.
I can't tell.
I can do one. Just let me know.
Well, I just wanted to see.
Actually, Anne does it better than I do.
I just wanted to see if you were Chinese or Japanese. Be careful what I say, because you must know martial arts if you were. Right? Terrible. But no, I do have a question here. Is that I've noticed a correlation. It may not be causation, but I find that the people who are the most racist are people who don't or reject or just don't understand evolution either. I think that's a big thing.
You think so?
Yeah. Well, that I have noticed. That, like I said, correlation does not necessarily mean causation. But it's just funny when people are racist, against black people specifically, because they were the first race.
Yeah,
right?
I always find it funny when I was telling you the other day.
It's like being anti-tan. You know what I mean? Like, you ever see Remember the Titans, that Denzel Washington movie?
I never saw that movie.
Okay, well they have it. That's what it's about: racism, black people and white people playing football together, and the one black guy is talking about the white guy, and he's like, he's just a light-skinned brother, and I'm just a dark cracker. It was hilarious. It was a very an anti-racism movie, so I definitely liked the movie, and they used a football setting, and it was really good. But that's one thing that we should talk to young kids about in school, especially in like biology class. Be like, there is only one race.
Yes,
it's Homo sapiens. There was black people, and then there was
the Human Genome Project established.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I usually tell people that are racist towards black people. You realize, as Caucasians, there's a percentage of our DNA that actually comes from another human species than Neanderthals. When you're African from like dark black African from Africa, you're completely 100% Homo sapien. So
and yet they call them less human,
exactly,
even though it's the exact opposite.
It's
human being Homo sapien.
It just shows it breeds ignorance. Right? Racism is bred by ignorance.
Well, that's what I was wondering, because like I said, I talked to a lot of people from like the southern U.S. and stuff, not to be super specific, but a lot of the people who I meet who reject evolution are also very racist. So I thought maybe if we taught more about that, about the origins of, whatever you want to call it, not skin color, like it's discriminating against tanning. Like, that's ridiculous.
And you can't argue with genetics either. I've got a question for you, Ken.
Yes.
I was watching a documentary about the stuff happening in Germany. Now, Germany... Angela Merkel famously said several years ago, multiculturalism does not work. They were trying the multiculturalism experiment pretty much what we're trying here in Canada, and for them, they did not like it. There's a vast segment of the population that doesn't seem to approve of it, unlike here in Canada. So, but on the other hand, they've embraced their history and the dark side of their history as well. And what I mean is, in Germany, for example, you'll see signs that are like a proclamation from Hitler just to show kids that, for example, the Jews weren't allowed here in 1946. They're not hiding it like we have a tendency to hide our history. Kids know very little about our history and some of the mistakes we've made. Germany has embraced them, teaching the kids, don't make the mistakes we did back then. There's kind of a dichotomy of thought here. The multiculturalism experiment seems to have failed in Germany, yet it's happening here. Do you think in Canada it'd be a great thing for us to maybe accept our history as well and do something similar? I mean, we do have the Koshiyama Maru, the boat there, and we do have a long history against the natives.
And like the concentration camp thingies we
for the Japanese,
the right to vote.
The right to vote. I mean, these are. It'd be interesting if we actually put it out in plain sight how the Canadian public, the also politically correct Canadian public, would react to that. What do you think?
Well, I think multiculturalism is not failing in Canada. I think we're doing...
No, we're totally doing good.
Yeah, we're doing good. I think overall it's... but we do have struggles. But I think it's... people generally are very good to each other, but there's room for improvement, definitely.
I'll note he's looking at me again when I'm saying that.
But we've come a long ways in when the right to vote, and see some of the stories of people, how far they went to create that conversation, and so and women as well, right? It's not just
a lot of people don't know the last province to allow women to vote was actually my home province of Quebec, to my great shame. It was 1948. It's not actually that long ago, right? So
multiculturalism in Canada, I think, has a great future, and I think it's doing well. I just think Cycling for Diversity has a very good role in just saying, keep the message and awareness alive that it's a great thing.
Perfect.
It's good to have friends from all over the world. And I think if we reject multiculturalism, I think that as a country, we're,
I think it's part of the social fabric now. I don't think there's no way in hell we're going to start rejecting that now.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. And we'll deal more into that right after this.
You can take it on next, right?
You are listening to CIVL 101.7 FM at the University of the Fraser Valley's Abbotsford campus, serving the surrounding communities of Abbotsford, Mission, and Chilliwack, British Columbia. Follow us on Facebook. Click like on CIVL Radio. Follow CIVL on Twitter at CIVL_radio. Email us at info@civl.ca. Reach us with telecommunication devices at 604-851-6307.
Welcome to your KPE 360 Health Minute. In an increasingly sedentary society, we need to stay on top of our daily physical activity. Here are some quick tips to get active and stay active during a busy semester.
UFB offers classes that will motivate and introduce you to new ways of exercise through activities such as Pilates, yoga, and Zumba. Prices and schedules can be found on our UFB Cascades website.
However, if you need to get your daily dose of activity off of campus, your UPass grants you free access to the Abbotsford, Matsqui, and Chilliwack Recreation Centers. Make sure you stop by their front desks to grab the drop-in fitness class schedule.
Although if being outside is more your style, you can enjoy beautiful BC scenery by hiking. Check out vancouvertrails.com to see a list of hiking trails in your area.
In the end, make sure you remember to take a break from sitting at a desk all day to get up and be active. That was your KPE 360 Health Minute.
Hi, I'm the Supreme Irreverend Dr. Randy Tyson from the Legion of Reason Diversion. Join me and my co-hosts, Christine Shelska, Twyla, and Nate Phelps, as we explore issues at the intersection of atheism, humanism, and skepticism. Topics range from alternative medicine to the interference of religion in public policy. We often have special guests to help us understand the topic du jour. Previous guests include biologist Jerry Coyne, ex-Muslim author Ali Rizvi, philosopher Peter Boghossian, and the late physicist Victor Stanger. You can watch us on the Legion of Reason YouTube channel or subscribe to the audio version through your favorite podcatcher such as iTunes or Stitcher. And don't forget to like the Legion of Reason Facebook page.
This is Troy Baker, the voice of Talion from Shadow of Mordor here at Emerald City Comic Con, telling you to tune in to listening to The Movies, the show that plays classic hits from great film and video game soundtracks every Thursday night at 8 p.m. Pacific on 101.7 Civil Radio and on www.civil.ca.
And we're back. My dear, you came here with Ken not knowing what kind of environment you'd find yourself into, and we've barely dwelled into you, so we're going to turn the spotlight on you now. Give us the lowdown on how you became Tangle in this wonderful adventure.
Well, it started just by me sending messages to Ken on Facebook. My interest to start with cycling for diversity, and
Facebook is to blame again, huh?
Yes.
Darn
And
Facebook.
with that, he brought me a T-shirt that night, and there hasn't been a single night where we haven't been talking or seeing each other. So I jumped on board right from the very beginning.
And your position in the whole scheme of things, if you'll forgive my phrase here, well, what exactly do you do in the organization?
Well, I'm the executive director, so I help, book the schools and any other events we do. We do stuff like Mission Fest, Abbey Fest. We visit the prisons on top of the schools. There's a lot of other places that invite us to come join us, and we've also been asked to go abroad as well. So
the adage of that behind every great man there's a woman rolling her eyes is quite literally true here, right?
Absolutely.
Or shaking her hand.
Shaking her hand. It's like, oh, what are you doing? So so you guys have been invited to go abroad, you say?
Yes.
Like how far abroad?
Africa.
Really?
India.
Wow, fantastic.
Yes.
Fantastic. Are you guys making plans to go there?
We will be, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Not by bike, obviously.
Mm-hmm. No.
Well,
biking on a boat for quite a while.
Well, the message is not just here in the Lower Mainland; it's throughout the world, right? About diversity. What is diversity? When we talk to the kids, when we go to school, and I ask, what does diversity mean? So all these kids put their hands up, and the first thing that often gets said is differences. Like we're different, we're different. And then I try to change it a little bit, and instead of focusing on differences, actually we have a lot more similarities, and try to focus on similarities between the kids, because differences is fine, but it's at that age I think it's important to share in similarities as well. And the three concepts to come up with, I think that help diversity make it work better, because diversity. How are we going to make it work better? There's three concepts. JEP I call it. So being gentle. When we're gentle with each other, we actually listen to each other. Like just how we're doing here today. This is a very gentle
I'm a gentle
atmosphere,
kind of
Kevin. So when we're gentle, we listen to each other, right? And then it's what's the other one? We're equal. We're all equal. no one's better, no religion is one better, or if you believe in religion, if you don't, or whatever, we're all equal, right?
Yeah.
They're all equally false.
Exactly. Yeah. And balances. Look at your balances. Like, do you have people in your life that are from different perspectives and cultures and countries, and include them into your life? And that's what diversity is. If we can practice those three concepts, I think you're practicing diversity, because unfortunately a lot of people aren't. They say, "Oh, I believe in diversity. I believe in it." But look at their Facebook friends. They've got like 300 friends. More than half of them will be from the same culture or whatever, and that's fine too. But that's not how, from the generation we were brought up here in Canada, we were taught by our parents. My dad came in the 50s and said, there's a sense of also, including everybody to come to your school. I mean, everybody come to your home, not just your South Asian friends or Asian friends or whatever. Everybody, include everybody, right?
Yeah.
But what's happening here also is, as the community is getting bigger and bigger and bigger, all the communities are growing, except, our multicultural communities. We see in the sporting thing, South Asians will have their own leagues and own hockey teams where they all play together against, we're going to play against the white people. And I understand it's innocent fun and everything like that, but what happens is that goes on, the cycle goes on, it carries outside.
Yes,
right?
yes.
And it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. I go to restaurants, so that's...
It's astounding to me. You talk about South Asian and sports. South Asian population around here adopted hockey in a fantastic way.
Yes.
I mean, they're huge hockey fans. A lot of people don't know that. There's a huge follow of the Canadian Hockey League, or the National League, I should say, by the South Asian population. And you hear them on the radio. they're as thrilled as soccer fans are down south.
Yeah.
But yet, like you said, you have just a group of South Asian, or the whites will play with the whites. And the other aspect that's also interesting about this is cuisine, for example. None of us discriminate going to eat Indian food or Vietnamese food. But yet, for some reason, when it comes to relationship with people, we don't seem to have that same openness.
Yeah.
So.
Well, there's a lot of people promoting things that are just flat out false. Like, I spend a lot of time arguing with idiots on Facebook, and they show me all these different studies and stuff that show there are, racial differences with things like IQ. And I've seen a lot of people post that, and there was one in particular where they took a whole bunch of poor black people and did IQ tests on them, and then they took a whole bunch of wealthy white people and did IQ tests on them and said, look, black people are dumber than white people. I'm like, no, poor people are dumber than people who have money for school, you idiot. And people intentionally do studies like that to support their own biases and try to support their racism. And if people would just realize that racism is stupid and it doesn't make any scientific sense whatsoever.
Well, it's an invented concept, right? We invented this concept of race because, like we said, the Human Genome Project, there is just one human race right now as we speak. There was more than one in the past, but they're extinct now. There is just one human race now.
There's even some scientists who have tried to put forward this idea that there are these racial IQ differences and stuff, and I suggest checking out the Skeptics Dictionary. Just type in racial IQ, and there's a whole bunch of different links that you can also find where people do stupid studies like that. But science says that there is no race that is superior to another race, but people keep trying to say that there is, which is why racism is ridiculous. So,
well, it's like that line in South Pacific, you have to be taught to hate. If you put a bunch of kids together and they're different racial, different cultural groups, they're going to play, and they're going to have the little spats, but they're going to play, and they're going to accept each other. The older they get, and they notice the differences, and if parents reinforce the differences, that's where your program is going to come in handy, because you're trying to perhaps undo some of the biases that they're learning. So I think it's wonderful to get into the schools. The younger the kids are, they can understand that diversity is a good thing and go along with it, the better they are. So, I'm glad you've been here since 2011. I hope you keep going forever.
Is there a way that you can track progress or anything? Like, I don't know if we have racism statistics that we can track to see if it's actually going down. Like,
you mean if the message recycling for diversity is actually catching on?
Well, or anything that we're doing, like different programs and stuff. That's why I said we need to... Keep going.
I think one of the most important things we need to realize is, first of all, nobody's born a racist, and I think, it needs to start at home. Diversity needs to be learned at home to start with. And the reason why I say that is a couple years ago we went to a school, and I wasn't with the team at this time, and Dr. Bill McGregor decided that he was going to break the kids up for the areas that they were sitting in. And he had a couple kids move and introduce themselves. Now, the next year when we went back, I was with the team, and the young girl gets up and says, "Can I have the microphone? I'd like to tell a story." She explains who the person was she was looking for, and I told her who he was. And she says, "I really wish he was here today because I would like to give him the biggest hug in the world." She says, "I was taught at home that I should only hang out with white kids, that I shouldn't hang out with colored kids because that was not acceptable in my family." And she goes, and to this day, the young girl that he introduced me to, who happened to be a South Asian girl, they're best friends. And she says there's not a day goes by that if they're not together, they're on the phone. So she said that he taught her a very valuable lesson, and that she realized what her parents had taught her was wrong, and that she wanted to continue to spread our message.
Well, and that's the problem, is we can't legislate that. Like, there's so many idiot parents out there that there's nothing we can do about it. But that's why I was saying that we should be teaching these kids about the evolution of races at a very young age, because then they'll actually see that they're just slightly more tan than you or slightly less tan than you, and maybe that would actually do it, because I'm not going to leave it to the parents.
Well, everybody's more tan than me, that's for sure. I'm like an Altoid with shoes.
Racism is not just between different groups, it's also within groups.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's quite true.
It's not just like, the community I come from, there's different caste systems, levels of people, and people just have these weird,
I've got a very good example of that, myself being francophone.
Yeah.
You would think, as a Caucasian man in North America, you never feel the sting of racism, but I do, and on a regular basis, especially when you hear Americans, how they talk about the French. Now, I'm not French from France, obviously, but I see it every day. I mean, I've even seen pictures, you're talking like advertisement for a company like Subway, and they had a chicken with the head of Napoleon on it, and saying French chicken, somehow French and chicken, it kind of goes together, we think. This is horrible. I mean, I'm not French from France, but I was offended by that nonetheless, just as being not just French Canadian, but just as a human person, right? And to see this kind of racism, you're right, it's not just within different shades of humans, it's also within the same shade.
No, that's more prejudice than racist, right? Because, it's not.
Okay, fair enough.
French isn't exactly a race. It's kind of like the whole Muslim thing when people talk about, I'm like, I know white Muslims. Muslim is not a race.
That's true.
When you look at the early South Asian pioneers who came to this country and some of the struggles they did, there was a real great effort to integrate into society.
Mm.
When you look at, my dad came in the 50s, and the people before that, they really want to be part of the greater community. And the greater community accepted them, actually. People think, people hated everybody back then. There was actually a lot of love. When my dad came, he goes, wow, we got new East Indian person in Mission. When he came to Mission in 1952, he goes, we have a new East Indian person from India into the community. So everybody would invite them to their homes, and the homes are, open. And
that's fantastic.
There was a lot of love, too. We always hear the hate, right?
Of course, yeah.
But there was actually a lot of love, too. And people said, the doors are always open. People were always fed. Nobody, just... That's how it was back then, right? Nobody had locks or alarms, or, but now it's a different society today, right? It's a closed society. Everything's always, right?
Yeah.
We're getting more and more like that.
You ever think we'll ever beat that tribalist mentality that we seem to be ingrained with?
Yeah, well...
We're working on it, right?
You know what? We're honored to carry the message and our logo, and I see people wearing our T-shirts and supporting our message. It's... We're just honored to do it, and it's. I was only going to do the one ride in 2011, but people say, this needs to be discussed. UFE supports us in a big way. They have so.
Excellent.
And,
points for UFE.
Yeah. so as many other universities in the Lower Mainland, they when they hear cycling for diversity, they get a good response, right? So
what do you tell people? Because I'm sure you bump. I mean, I even have members of my own family.
Mm-hmm.
that are very conservative, and they're racist and bigots.
Do they also reject evolution?
Yeah, they're not sure.
No,
they're
trying to support my point here, not helping.
Yeah, they're Christians, right? So,
well,
I mean, I was having this argument with a member of my family. I was going to go unnamed, but she said essentially she was afraid of becoming a minority in her own country. And I said to her, well, why are you afraid of becoming a minority? Are minority ill-treated here? And she said, no. Then why are you afraid to become a minority? But of course she was lying, because she knew full well that minorities are not necessarily treated the same way as everybody else.
Yeah.
So I think you need a lot of introspect when you start saying these kind of things. But I'm sure you bump into a lot of people that say these kind of things.
All the
Say,
time.
you know, oh, people come over here, they don't learn the language. What do you answer to something like that?
Well, I usually take a deep breath first. You know, it all depends on the person I'm talking to.
Okay.
You know, that has a big thing, right? You know, if
you tailor your answer.
Yeah, like if it's every answer is a little different, because if a person sometimes doesn't understand, sometimes a lack of understanding, clear lack of understanding. So if I come up hard, it's just going to make it worse. And usually I try not to come too hard, because it just makes it worse, right? Conflict just leads to more conflict, right? So just try to tell people that, you know, sometimes everybody's life experience is a little different than everybody else's, right? We don't know this person's life experience, why they may not know English, right? You know, they may just, you know, so it's...
Let's first of all, let's just say learning a new language is not easy.
Exactly, right?
It's not easy.
Right, and as being as people say, the figurehead of diversity, I have got to understand people, right? We got to understand, like, how it's working, right? This is... he knows some language, so... Isn't that pretty good? I think it's done pretty good, right? I mean, it doesn't have to be English. Like, that's a problem here. Like, if you don't know English, you're a second-class citizen.
Yeah.
That is wrong.
Well, it's interesting because, and I guess this is part of discrimination and prejudice and racism, is that if someone comes to our country and doesn't learn our language, then we immediately think, oh, they're lazy, they don't want to be a part of it, we're going to pick on them. But if we go to another country and we're older and we have problems picking up another language, like Punjabi or Chinese or whatever it is, and it's, oh, well, that language is so difficult, and why don't they learn English to make it easier for me?
Yes.
It's so, you know, egocentric that, you know, you're going to pick on people here that don't pick up the language, but if you go someplace else, there's 100 different excuses, and people just don't seem to realize that's all part
you can go to Quebec, and
Yeah.
if you don't speak French very well, a lot of them will treat you like crap.
Oh,
yeah, I mean, there should be support. If
you and I will
people-
argue on that.
I'm trying to attack Kevin.
It could
so.
be easier for people to get support to learn. I was reading or listening to the radio a couple of years ago about immigrants coming to this country and how difficult it is for them to go into classes because the classes are full, and there's often a waiting list of a year or two to get into an English class. So you can't really say to the person, well, they're not making the effort to learn. We're not making the effort to make it easier
And English
for
is
them.
English is one of the most
so-
complicated languages
It
for
is,
people to
yeah.
learn as a second. Can we just get Russell Peters to come to like high schools and stuff? I love Russell Peters.
Anyway, I got to jump in here because we're coming to the end of our show. Ken, you guys are doing great work. Feel free to plug yourself in right now. If people want to find out more about what you guys are doing, where do they go?
You can send us an email at cycling@gmail.com. You can also find us on Facebook with Cycling for Diversity Foundation.
Mhm.
And we're also on Twitter at Cycle for Diversity.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you so much, guys, for being with us on the show.
Thanks,
And
Kevin.
Feel free to come back whenever you
Thank
want.
you all.
You guys can find us at leftofthevalley.com. You can find us on Facebook, on Twitter. Coming up, we'll have Tracy Harris on the next show. Now, from the Atheist Experience, we'll also have a Sasquatch hunter. That should be fun. Now, stay tuned for Jazz and Blues on 101.7 FM. Guys, thank you so much. Until next time.
Take a picture?
It amazes me how perfectly intelligent people can reach the conclusion that all non-believers are evil. What a up statement. Do you realize what you're saying? But according to your book, this is how your God made me. Skeptical of anything that contradicts history, denies evolution, hates science, promotes mystery. I'd rather seek the truth than to bask in my own ignorance. Rather be alone than surrounded by damn idiots. As long as there's a breath in my Jesus is, or Zeus, Thor, Mithra, Vishnu. You don't believe in them. I think the reason is apparent. You do what you're told and believe in the God assigned by your parents. I'm proud to be an atheist, a skeptic, a non-believer, an infidel, a heathen. I call it how I see it. I say it's ignorance and you just call it faith and unsubstantiated claims. That's something to be ashamed. I'm an atheist. I'm an atheist. I'm an atheist. I'm an atheist. Now let me take a sec. Don't mean to sound so hateful, but I swear to God, but it's